Hello the internet, welcome back to Waifus. I'm Sefhi, your favorite gambling addict, and today's topic is one that has been requested for a while already, and that's going to be pets and cards. Which ones are worth investing, going all in and using your precious resources. So let's talk a little bit about that. Also, this is already on the website. If you don't want to see me yapping for 8 minutes, you can just go to the website and click on the card tier list and pet tier list. I'm only going to be talking about a few of them, and I'm going to be talking mostly about the ones that are used everywhere and the ones that are endgame and bossing and why they are there. I didn't want to do like a T0, T1, T2 for cards and pets, because the reality is that cards and pets, you will be switching constantly depending on what you're doing, depending on the boss, depending on the element, on your team composition. So that's what I didn't want, like a T0, T2, T3, and I used basically used everywhere for the best cards, endgame bossing, niche situational, and underwhelming. And for the cards, what I did was use everywhere, safe investment, niche situational, and underwhelming. I might add some extra cards from the blue ones, but it's not really worth it. So that's it. Let's talk about this, starting with the pets first. Leave a like, subscribe, comment on the channel, and let's jump directly into what pets are worth investing in or going for dupes. When we talk about pets, you will need pets with max dupes if you want to use them on your main team and endgame. Pets without any dupes, it's really hard seeing them. You will barely use them because the stats they provide are nothing. Let's say I want to put Vivian on my team. It's a 30% attack and 10% ignore damage reduction. But my Steggy is giving me 60%, 10% damage reduction, 5% additional damage, and an extra 5% ignore damage reduction. A lot better, right? So let's start with the three main pets that I will say are the same thing, basically, the same thing. When we talk about pets, there is always three that basically will be used at endgame, and that's going to be Anessa, Esteria, and Tristan. The thing is, most people will only recommend to you Esteria, an offensive pet for the stats that she's giving you, and will fear all enemies on a 2-second duration with a 20-second cooldown, right? So that's pretty good. The problem is a lot of bosses at endgame will be immune to fear, immune to CC. So then what are the other two pets? They are exactly the same thing. So if I go, for example, to Tristan, it's exactly another offensive pet, attack damage reduction, additional damage, ignore damage reduction. But instead of fear, it's a root. 2 seconds, 150 attack, 20-second cooldown. Same thing as Esteria. And the same applies as well for Anessa. Anessa is a 2-second freeze on a 20-second cooldown, 150 attack. Her stats are a little bit different with attack, ignore, crit damage, and additional damage. So these three pets are really good for basically almost all content, as long as the bosses are not immune to CC. If the boss is immune to CC, you are better off using other pets. The other two pets that right now are used everywhere are going to be Phoenix, and this is pretty simple, okay? He has a 100% uptime on critical chance, so a 10% crit chance for free for your team. You don't have to do anything else, and it's also great stats when it comes to what is provided. He's giving you attack, increase healing receive, additional damage, and ignore damage reduction. A really solid pet. If there is a banner for Phoenix, you can go all in without worrying too much. The new pet might be better than Phoenix. We will see when it drops on the next patch in a couple of weeks. And the other pet is Tiamat. The Tiamat pet is an interesting one. So the Tiamat pet has really good offensive stats, once again, so attack, additional damage, damage, and crit resistance. But her skill is mostly used on bossing. So it's still a pet you can use everywhere, but for the most part it's going to be used for those bosses. Because she's giving defense reduction at 10% on 3-second duration on a 10-second cooldown. Her damage is also pretty nice at 244%. So this is a really strong pet that I would recommend if you have. Or if we get a Tiamat rerun at some point, you can also go and invest safely into her. Those are, to me, the pets that I will say are used everywhere. Now, why are these pets on endgame / bossing? So Athena, Christina, Merlin, Ran, and Vivian. Let's go over most of them. And we're gonna start with Vivian and Merlin since I have both of them here. Vivian is a really nice pet. The problem with Vivian is that you need a lot of dupes because she will have attack, damage reduction, additional and crit damage, so an offensive pet. But her skill will basically reduce your crit chance, so it's gonna be reducing it by 5%. But it's also gonna be giving you ignore damage reduction for 15%. So as long as you can offset this 5% crit chance reduction, you are basically getting 15% ignore damage reduction. For bosses that have this passive, this pet is fantastic. Merlin is on a similar situation to the other pets. It's also a freeze, but it's only a 1 second and it's also applying crit resistance reduction to the enemies. But still, since it's only a 1 second freeze on a 20-second duration, it's really hard to justify bringing her over the other pets. However, the crit resistance is permanent. It's permanent for all the enemies. So this is good also for bosses and where you want to be critting constantly. So those two are really good pets for bossing. What about Ran? What about Christina? What about Athena, Sefhi? Okay, if I am not blind and I don't miss them, here, Athena. Athena is simply a DPS pet, as you can see. Inflicts damage equal to 65% of attack to one enemy. So this is just for bosses, basically, to be doing a lot of extra damage to those bosses. Christina is going to be another pet that is basically going to be for bosses that are mostly immune to crits. When we talk about damage over time, right now the only usage that it has is actually on bosses, because if they are immune to crits, like it's the case with Tiamat, then you can use something like this to be dealing a lot of extra damage. There is not a lot more usages for Christina right now. And the last pet that is also really good for bosses is Ran. I didn't pull on her banner because we could not spend money when we got this banner, sadly. But as you can see, it's a basic offensive pet. But her skill is the important thing. So she deals 244% of attack on a 5-second cooldown. But this is increased by 100% when attacking a target affected by shock. This is the pet used for every single team that is based on shock. If you're running a team with Lua, with Ran, with any of those characters, the new girl that is coming in a couple of weeks, the rank pet is basically mandatory if you want to be competing and having good ranks. That said, those are like the pets that I would recommend that you can invest safely without having to worry too much about resources. The others are either niche situational or kind of underwhelming. Do not make this video 30 minutes long, however, I do want to talk about some cards and why they are good, alright? So, first of all, let's go over the use everywhere cards if you guys want, right? Like if I come here and I go to the cards, first is the Lua card. This card works on any DPS in the game, any DPS, because it's additional damage and crit damage. Not only that, but it also will help you with the cooldown of your active skill to get an extra active skill activation every 21 seconds. Really good, really powerful card, can be used everywhere. Then we have the Tiamat card. Now, Tiamat card, it's kind of like a safe investment, but it is the strongest damage dealer in the game by far. There is nothing catching up to her. That's why this is still a card you can invest into if you get it and it's used everywhere, because it doesn't matter what team you are running, Tiamat will be there, always, right? So, basic DPS card for her. The other card that is also a T0 is going to be the Vivian card, and it's because of the passive, the crit damage increase. Anytime you see cards that have team buffs, they are always really good. They are always cards that will be either a T0 or a T1 on the case of other cards as well in there. The other two cards that I do want to mention here are the attack cards. So both Merlin, the Merlin card for mages, and the Anessa card for DPS characters, they are the same, and they both give 36% attack to everyone on the team. Really good cards. I use this on my tank a lot when I'm doing bosses because my tank can survive. She doesn't need like an extra card, right? She can be buffing the team instead, which is really good. So those two cards are always really nice. Other melee card that if you get, you can invest without having to worry about anything is the Ran card. This is a really good card, the Moonlight Swordplay, melee attack, crit chance as well, but this is the important part. So if you have a good front line, so every time you are getting hit by the enemy, you are dealing back or reflecting damage 100%, which is really good. It's really good. This is a nice card that most people will still use. Nowadays, it's losing a little bit of usage for the buffs, but yeah, but it's still really popular. The other two cards that are T0 or whatever you want to call this are going to be the Charm and of course the Cirque card. Charm is a card that it's not mandatory for endgame, but it's almost, honestly. So this will, to all enemies, reduce their crit resistance by 15% at max level. That is huge. At endgame, you need to be running teams that are constantly critting. You need to be running teams that are hitting really hard, and these cards will help you critting more consistently. The other card that is still 6 months after the game came out, almost 7 months, still I don't have a single dupe. I most likely will be using a selector for her. Is the Cirque card. This card, just like the Lilith card, will apply attack reduction. And you might be thinking, a 1.5 attack reduction is not that good. But at max level, I believe it's a 10 or 15%. 10-15% attack reduction to all enemies. That is huge. And that is the reason why people can push hard and hell mode so far with teams that are so under level, because those attack reduction cards, the crit resistance reduction, all of those good cards. So those are the cards that are T0 cards, that are the cards used everywhere. You can invest in them, no problem. I only want to mention one card from Sefhi Investment, but all of the cards in here are good cards. You can invest your resources and don't feel like you're wasting them. Most of them are either for the specific card or for specific characters. Like the Galahad card and the Erin card are just support cards, right? But the one I do want to mention in here, it's of course going to be the purple card. The only purple card I believe is worth investing, which is going to be Holy Sword Blessing. This card gives you a second chance. When you are at the brink of death, you will become immune for 3 seconds and you will basically recover your whole HP. This is a really powerful card. This is used mostly on front lines, on some bosses that target the mid line or the back line. I've used this on my Tiamat, I've used this on some of my supports, on my mid line as well. I use this on some of my healers. This card is used everywhere. It's also used on a cheese strategy with Isabel, and where is she with Claire as well, because she stuns when she's at the brink of death. So you put Claire as a front line, she dies, but then she stuns everyone, she recovers her all HP. Like, there's a lot of situations where that card is really powerful, and it's the only purple card I would recommend that you can invest without having to worry about anything. If you're a new player and you got like super unlucky and you get no other cards, Counter Attack and the Esmeralda cards for the healers are decent, but I would not bother too much with them. That said, I am not going to be recommending any other cards or talking about the rest, because if not, this video will be like literally 40 minutes long. If you guys have questions, as usual, you can join our Discord and ask in there. That said, enough japping. We are live every day. Links in the description down below. Good luck with your pool dinner rates. I'll see you on the next one.